Let's get to our man Matt Moscona, who is the host of After Further Review, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria, Lafayette, Lake Charles, basically all over the great state of Louisiana. We always appreciate Matt, who's kind with his time. He knew I was under the rock this week with Ryan Brown on vacation. I don't do a lot of booking, and Matt said, "Man, I'll help you out," and he jumps on with us now. Welcome back to the show, Matt. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. How are you doing?
Matt, you're muted.
I got you muted right now. You're muted. Can you hit the unmute? There we go.
My apologies, guys. Always happy to be on. Sorry, I'm in the car, so you got the sunroof view and the side of a gas station, but happy to be on. Thanks, guys.
It's good, and I appreciate you doing that. We wanted to start because LT's a big Brian Kelly guy. Where are you with LSU this year as they open up camp? Replacing first Jayden Daniels, who's going to go on to great things in the NFL. How comfortable is everybody down there and you with Garrett Nussmeier and wherever you're going with the quarterback position?
Yes, I always think, whenever you're going to try to project for a football team or any team, I always look at who has the fewest questions against the most manageable schedule, right? And the odd thing about LSU is if you start to list the questions that you have on this team, you might get 4 or 5 down the list before you start talking about Garrett Nussmeier, which is so odd to say because you're replacing the Heisman Trophy winner. But I think that speaks to how many questions this team has on the defensive side of the ball. As for quarterback, to your question, look, he's a bit of an outlier, right? And a guy that was a blue chip prospect who waited 4 years. He waited his turn to play. And I think there's a lot of confidence in Garrett because he knows the offense, he knows the personnel, he knows the coaches, they know him. And he's a mature kid who's got tons of ability. I think the big question with Garrett has been purging some of the bad decisions out of his game and taking care of the football. If he does that, look, he'll have plenty of talent around him on the offensive side. As odd as it is to say, guys, replacing the Heisman Trophy winner isn't the biggest question on this team.
Look, I've said it before, as Dunaway said, I'm a big Brian Kelly guy. When he got hired, guys like Ed Orgeron and Les Miles won national championships. I believe he will win a national championship. I went on record last year. I thought they were going to be a team that would win a national championship, at least be in the mix. And as disappointing as the season was, you mentioned Jayden Daniels wins a Heisman. They still win 10 games. But where is the approval rating right now with LSU fans with Brian Kelly?
It's very high. And a big part of that last year, if they just got competent defensive play, not great defensive play, just competent defensive play, they're a playoff team. I mean, they were statistically the best offense in college football. But a big part of the fan confidence in Brian Kelly also has to do with how he's rebuilt his staff and what they're doing in recruiting. Guys, I'm not sure if you paid attention, but LSU has the number one class for 2025 already, with the number one player in the country, the number one quarterback, number one receiver, number one running back. I think that was probably a big question a lot of people had when Kelly came here. Would he be able to recruit and build a staff to recruit to get the type of players you need to win a championship? And because he has seemingly checked and continues to check that box emphatically, there's more, I think, more confidence now than ever that he will be able to get that done the way, as you mentioned, Nick, Les, and Ed all before him did.
Obviously, Kirby had Georgia up with back-to-back national championships, and Nick Saban got him in the SEC championship this past year. But with Nick Saban retiring, there is, whether it's at the top or, near the top, there is a vacuum. There is a little space that is gone in the Southeastern Conference. And then here comes Texas and Oklahoma. And I was comparing this to a land rush back in the old Western days of people trying to plot their flag in the Southeastern Conference. How important of a year is this for LSU football, you think, to sort of reestablish themselves as one of the elite upper-tier programs in the conference with new faces coming in and Nick Saban out of Tuscaloosa?
Well, I think that's a big part of it, is the Nick Saban out, because it feels like it feels like the most giant hurdle, the biggest mountain, that boulder that's been standing in LSU's way has been removed. It's not to completely discredit Kalen DeBoer. I think he's a good coach and he's going to win plenty, but it didn't matter literally who Alabama hired. It wasn't going to be Nick. So the path just isn't as treacherous. How big is this year? I don't know, because it feels like in this current age of college football with the portal, we are talking about a year-to-year premise where, hey, look, Ole Miss is the best example, I think, of this in the conference. Ole Miss sees an opportunity. Look at their schedule. Ole Miss will be 7-0 coming to Baton Rouge in October. But look at their schedule. They will be undefeated coming to October, coming to LSU. They recognized an opportunity with their schedule, with who they had returning. So they went ham in the portal and said, we're going all in this year. I don't know that I look at LSU this year as an all in the way that Ole Miss is for this season. But I think the way Brian Kelly is trying to do it, and we'll see if this will work, guys. I mean, I think it's, in this day and age in college football, remains to be seen. I think he is still trying to build through the high school ranks and supplement his roster through the portal. The real question, though, is if you build through the high school ranks and you go sign all these blue chip prospects, will they stay? Each of the last 2 years, LSU had a 5-star quarterback in Walker Howard, was here for 1 year, transferred to Ole Miss. LSU had a 5-star offensive lineman, Lance Hurd, here for 1 year, transferred to Tennessee. Okay, you want to keep building through the high school ranks. I get it. I get the approach, build and develop. Can you actually do that? Only time will tell.
I'll stick by this. There is a correlation between Alabama not winning a national championship over the last 3 years and not having elite wide receiver play. Back in the day, they had it every single year. I think if John Mechie and Jamison Williams don't go down, I think they probably beat Georgia 3 years ago.
I agree.
But, they haven't had that. And you look at this dynamic offense that LSU had last year, but you're losing both Malik Neighbors, who will be a top 10 guy. Good chance Brian Thomas goes on the back end of the first round. What do they have coming back at wide receiver?
Yeah, LSU doesn't have that problem. It's kind of like we wondered the same thing when they lost Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and Terrace Marshall, and then this next crop of Kayshon Boutte and the guys you just mentioned, Neighbors and Thomas, come rolling through, and seemingly they've got the next crop. So Kyron Lacey returns. They went in the portal and signed Xavion Thomas from Mississippi State and CJ Daniels, who's a 1,000-yard receiver at Liberty. And then on top of that, guys, they have this whole just conveyor belt of blue chip talent they've recruited at receiver. Chris Hilton is a former 5-star who's just kind of been caught up in the log jam, right, waiting for his turn. Shelton Sampson was a 5-star a year ago who's going into his sophomore year. They have tall, fast, long, athletic guys that can run, jump, and catch that look the part. It's really just the bigger question is, who's going to emerge, how those reps are going to be divvied up. But there's no shortage of talent there. I didn't even mention Aaron Anderson, guys, who y'all are familiar with, another former 5-star who's on the roster. So they've got plenty of options. It's really just a question of who's going to emerge.
Following up that season opening loss to Florida State, who eventually went undefeated in the regular season, after that second half, people were like, why in the hell is Harold Perkins playing inside? Why in the hell is he inside? You heard it a million times. And then we get reports he's going to stay on inside. And I said, look, Harold Perkins has got to be comfortable with this, because you just mentioned transferring. Harold Perkins, anybody would have taken this guy, but it looks like he is going to stay inside and stay instead of playing on the edge. I take it he's 100% comfortable with this.
I think that's Harold Perkins' decision, and he's the one pushing for it. I don't know that you'd ever hear anybody publicly say that, certainly not coaches, but it doesn't make sense any other way. This is a guy that had never played off the ball in high school, came to LSU, emerged as an elite edge rusher, really wanted to commit himself to being a 3-down linebacker, because I think, guys, he's visioning, okay, it's what Devin White was. Well, I don't know that Harold Perkins is ever going to be Devin White. And the only way that you're going to really improve being an off-ball linebacker is by getting game reps and letting that speed slow down. But man, in this league where you have 300-pound offensive linemen and running backs that run 4.3, if you're flat-footed and thinking, you're going to look silly. I think the hope is that, with Blake Baker coming back as the defensive coordinator and coach and linebackers, that maybe he can maximize Harold Perkins there on the inside. But I have my sincere doubts, guys. I look at it like a lot of people do and say, man, you have this elite talent doing this thing that's so important, rushing the passer. Why would you mess with that? But I think it's Harold's target. And listen to Brian Kelly say it. Hey, Brian Kelly will say point blank when he talks about Harold. It's part of it is getting him ready for what he wants to be at the next level. And I think he sees himself as a 3-down off-ball linebacker at the next level. And that's how he would maximize value. So I think that's part of the decision and why he's going to do that now.
I did enough local TV that I'm worried that you're sitting in a car. Please tell me the air conditioner is running. I don't want it to overheat, and we've got a casualty on our hand.
The AC is on. I'm good, guys.
Okay, good. Matt, man, I appreciate the time. We look forward to the show. Wherever you get on apps and everything, you can get Matt as well. Go check out all his videos. We do appreciate and really respect what you do down in the state of Louisiana. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Okay, fellas. Be well. Thanks for the invite.